Hello there, and welcome to Hypersleep Voyager. Far beneath the restless surface of our blue marble, there lies a silent, eternal frontier that sunlight has never touched. It is an ancient mystery, a vast, crushing void known as the Hadal Zone. This hidden kingdom of shadow and pressure sweeps quietly beneath our feet, largely overlooked by the frantic pace of the world above, yet holding secrets older than history itself. Tonight, we are going to slowly drift down into these obsidian depths together. We will wander safely through the deepest scars of our planet's crust, exploring the Mariana Trench not as a place of fear, but as a sanctuary of absolute, unwavering peace where the noise of modern life cannot reach you. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps others find their way here too. Now, settle into your own sanctuary. Take a moment to simply exist in stillness. Feel the heavy weight of the day evaporate into the ether. Drop your shoulders, letting them fall far away from your ears, and unclench your jaw, releasing any tension held there. Allow your breath to become slow, deep, and rhythmic. Let your eyes grow heavy, so very heavy, surrendering completely to the comfort of the night. Let's begin. The ocean is conceptually divided into distinct layers, like a great, watery atmosphere that thickens as we descend. As we leave the sunlit surface behind, we enter the mesopelagic zone, a transitionary realm where the light of the sun begins to fade into a distant memory. It is here that the vibrant, energetic blues of the upper world slowly dissolve into something heavier and more serious. Imagine yourself drifting effortlessly downward, thin fingers trying to hold on to the deep. But the deep is patient and vast. As you sink lower, the color shifts from a brilliant turquoise to a deep, royal indigo, and finally into a comforting, velvet black. There is no urgency here, only the slow, steady rhythm of your own descent. The water feels cool and embracing, wrapping around you like a heavy, protective blanket that shields you from the noise above. You watch the very last spark of light flicker and vanish, leaving you in a quiet, invisible world that has existed in this state for eons. It is a peaceful surrender to the unknown, a place where eyes are no longer needed, and only feeling remains. It is a reminder that even when the light fades, there is a profound and gentle beauty in the quiet dark, waiting to hold us in its eternal embrace. The deeper we travel, the more the ocean asserts its physical presence through the invisible power of hyrostatic pressure. For every 10 meters we descend into this liquid expanse, the weight of the water increases, stacking layer upon invisible layer above us until the force is immense. Imagine this pressure not as a crushing weight, but as a firm, grounding embrace from the ocean itself. It is a heavy, consistent touch that surrounds every single inch of existence down here, holding everything together. Picture the water molecules packed tightly together, an ancient, dense medium that supports the slow movements of the deep. It is a vast, invisible blanket that has settled over the trench, keeping the world below still and silent. In this high minus pressure environment, movements are deliberate and slow, like a dance performed in a dream. There is a great comfort in this heaviness. The chaos of the surface cannot penetrate this barrier. It is too light, too fleeting. Here, only the strong and the patient remain. It is a humbling reminder that true strength often comes from the ability to withstand great weight with a quiet, unyielding grace, finding stillness in the heaviest of depths. In this realm where photosynthesis is impossible and the sun is a stranger, the ecosystem relies on a ceaseless, silent drift known as marine snow. These are tiny particles of organic matter, the remnants of life from the sunlit world far above, falling slowly toward the trench floor. Imagine standing in a vast, dark field on a winter's night, watching a gentle snowfall that never ends. But these flakes are not cold. They are the nutrients of the deep, glowing faintly as they catch the bioluminescent shimmer of passing creatures. They drift down in a hypnotic, mesmerizing rhythm, taking weeks or even months to reach the bottom. It is a slow minus motion rain of sustenance, a quiet transfer of energy from the light to the dark. Watch a single flake float past you, spiraling lazily in the current, joining billions of others in this eternal procession. A lifeline that connects the crashing waves above to the silent abyss below. Nothing is wasted in this ocean. Everything eventually returns to the deep. This reminds us that we are all part of a vast, interconnected cycle where every ending in the light becomes a new beginning in the quiet, patient dark. The Mariana Trench itself is a colossal geological feature, a crescent-shaped car cut deep into the Earth's crust that stretches for more than 2,000 kilometers. It is the boundary where massive tectonic plates meet, a place of slow, inevitable subduction where the seafloor recycles itself. Picture yourself gliding over the edge of this precipice, looking down into the ultimate canyon. The walls slope gently downward, covered in soft, silty sediment that has accumulated over millions of years. It is a landscape of shadows and undulating hills, completely untouched by the winds or storms that ravage the land. Here, the geography is frozen in a quiet calm, changing only over eons. You drift past massive rock formations that loom out of the darkness, silent sentinels guarding the way to the Challenger Deep. The scale is impossible to comprehend, a vastness that swallows all sense of direction. Yet, there is peace in this immensity, a deep curve that holds the water in its safest, lowest point. It is a reminder that the Earth is constantly shaping itself, moving with a patience that outlasts all human time, carving out hidden sanctuaries of silence deep beneath the waves. Despite the freezing temperatures and the immense pressure, life finds a way to flourish here in the form of the Mariana Snailfish. This delicate creature is the deepest living fish ever discovered, thriving at depths where steel submarines would buckle under the strain. Imagine this small, ethereal being swimming gracefully through the inky blackness. Its skin is translucent and pale, lacking the scales of its surface cousins, revealing the gentle, slow pulse of life within. Effortless rhythm, its tadpole-like body rippling through the dense water. It does not fight the environment, it has become one with it. Its bones are not hard and brittle, but soft and cartilaginous, allowing it to bend and flow with the crushing weight rather than resisting it. It floats in the void, a tiny ghost in a massive machine, completely at ease in the most hostile environment on Earth. It is a master of adaptation, living a slow. Watching it glide provides a sense of profound tranquility. It is a humbling reminder that softness is often more durable than hardness, and that yielding to the forces around us can be the surest way to endure and find peace in the depths. Among the most mysterious residents of the Had Owl Zone are the xenophyophores, giant single-celled organisms that defy our understanding of biological scale. While most single-celled life is invisible to the naked eye, these fragile, delicate structures can grow to the size of a grapefruit, existing as distinct, living sculptures on the ocean floor. Imagine stumbling upon one of these ancient beings in the dark, resting gently on the sediment like a discarded sponge or a forgotten fan. It does not hunt, it simply exists, patiently sifting through the silt for microscopic particles of food. Its body is intricate and frilly, a complex lattice of soft material that looks as though it might dissolve at a mere touch. Yet it withstands the crushing tons of pressure with ease. It gathers dust from the water, coating itself in a layer of the trench's own history, becoming indistinguishable from the environment it calls home. There is a slowness to its existence that is almost geological, a life lived at a pace we cannot comprehend. It sits in the eternal blackness, filtering the quiet water, performing its humble task without pause. It is a reminder that life does not always need to be complex or fast to be significant, and that there is great dignity in simply being present, rooted and calm amidst the vastness of the unknown. The acoustics of the deep ocean create a sensory experience unlike anything in the air above, for water conducts sound with incredible speed and fidelity. In the Mariana Trench, the silence is not empty, it is a heavy, resonant quiet that carries the low-frequency heartbeat of the planet. Imagine closing your eyes and listening to the deep, muffled groans of the earth shifting miles away, or the distant, mournful song of a whale echoing down from the surface layers. These sounds are not sharp or startling, they are softened by the distance and the density, arriving as gentle vibrations that you feel in your chest rather than hear with your ears. The trench acts as a deep, acoustic corridor, trapping these sounds and letting them drift for thousands of miles. It is a soundscape of slow, rhythmic murmurs, a lullaby composed of shifting plates and distant tides. You are wrapped in a cocoon of dull, comforting noise, isolated from the chaotic, high-pitched frequencies of the human world. Here, the ocean speaks in a language of bass and hums, a soothing drone that encourages deep relaxation. This reminds us that true silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a harmony so deep and vast that it quiets the mind and settles the soul into a state of profound listening. In a world completely devoid of sunlight, the only illumination comes from the creatures themselves, a phenomenon known as bioluminescence. Down here, Light is not a given, it is a precious, deliberate creation used for communication or camouflage in the eternal night. Picture a tiny, solitary jellyfish drifting past you in the void, pulsing with a faint, ghostly blue glow. It is like a wandering star in an infinite, liquid sky, turning on and off in a slow, casting no shadows, only revealing the delicate outline of the creature for a brief second before it vanishes back into the velvet darkness. There are no sudden flashes to disturb your rest, only these gentle, rhythmic pulses that mimic the beating of a heart or the slow breathing of a sleeper. You watch as another light answers from the distance, a silent conversation taking place in the abyss. These living lanterns drift aimlessly, painting the darkness with fleeting strokes of teal and indigo. It is a peaceful, mesmerizing display that requires no electricity, only the chemistry of life. It is a humbling reminder that even in the deepest, darkest corners of existence, there is always a light to be found, provided we are quiet enough to see it glowing from within. The floor of the Mariana Trench is not a jagged, rocky wasteland, but is largely carpeted in a thick, soft layer of biogeneous sediment known as diatomaceous ooze. This creamy, silty mud is composed of the microscopic silica shells of algae that have rained down from the surface for millions of years. Imagine reaching out to touch this ancient floor, feeling your hand sink effortlessly into the softest, finest dust imaginable. It is like a cloud that has settled on the bottom of the world, a deep, cushioning mattress that absorbs all impact. Every movement here stirs up a slow motion comb of this silt, which hangs in the water like smoke before gently settling back down. This sediment is the library of the ocean, holding the chemical history of the earth in its layers, undisturbed by currents or storms. It is a place of absolute stillness where a footprint could remain unchanged for 1,000 years, offering a perfect resting place for the weary traveler of the deep. It covers the hard edges of the tectonic scar, softening the landscape into rolling, gentle gray hills. It is a reminder that time has a way of softening even the hardest surfaces, covering the sharp edges of the past with a gentle, protective layer of quiet grace. At the very bottom of the Challenger Deep, nearly 11 kilometers down, we reach a point of singular isolation, the most remote place on the surface of our planet. Here, the temperature hovers just above freezing, and the environment has remained virtually unchanged for eons. Imagine floating in this suspended animation, where the concepts of day and night, summer and winter, simply cease to apply. There is only the now, stretching out in all directions, an endless, unbroken continuum of peace. The water here is ancient, having traveled for centuries through the global conveyor belt to reach this resting point. It is distinct, heavy, and incredibly still. You are further from the sun than you have ever been, yet you are held in the warm, gravitational embrace of the Earth's core. The isolation is not lonely, it is protective. It creates a barrier between you and the demands of the surface life, a boundary that worries cannot cross. Wrapped in a blanket of eternal stability, in this profound stillness, the mind finally stops racing, matching the motionless water around it. This reminds us that there is a sanctuary within the depths of our own consciousness, a deep, silent center where we can retreat to find absolute stability and rest, no matter how chaotic the world above may be. Deep within this hidden world, there exist pockets of surprising warmth and chemical energy known as hydrothermal vents. Specifically, in the reaches near the trench, scientists have discovered the champagne vents where liquid carbon dioxide bubbles up from the seafloor. Imagine watching this surreal, underwater fountain in slow motion. Instead of hot, dark smoke, you see streams of milky-white bubbles drifting upward, looking exactly like the effervescence in a glass of champagne. Geological scale, they rise in lazy, hypnotic columns, shimmering against the absolute darkness of the abyss. The water here is slightly warmer, creating a gentle, thermal embrace in the freezing deep. You watch as the bubbles wobble and float, driven by the Earth's internal fire, releasing pressure that has been trapped for millennia. It is a slow, rhythmic release of the planet's breath, a silent exhalation that feeds the specialized bacteria living on the vent's rim. The scene is one of quiet industry and stark beauty, a hidden oasis of energy far removed from the sun. It is a reminder that even in the coldest and most isolated environments, there is a warm, vibrant source of energy waiting to be discovered, bubbling up from the core of existence to sustain life in the most unexpected ways. Hovering gracefully above the abyssal plains is the Grimbot Eulithis, affectionately known as the Dumbo octopus, the deepest living octopus known to science. Unlike its frantic, ink-squirting cousins in the shallow seas, this creature is a portrait of serenity. Imagine the small, bell-shaped being floating in the void, its body soft and pale, pulsing gently as it maintains its buoyancy. It uses two large, like fins on top of its head to propel itself. Deliberate cadence that resembles a bird flying in extreme slow motion. It does not jet or dart, it drifts. It hovers just above the sediment, searching for worms with a patience that defies time. Its movements are so fluid that it seems to be made of the water itself, a phantom of the deep that requires no effort to exist. There is no struggle in its motion, only a yielding to the current and a gentle guidance of its fins. Watching it hover is hypnotic, a dance of pure instinct and relaxation. It is a humbling reminder that moving through life with gentleness and a slow, steady rhythm is often more effective than rushing, and that grace is found in the quietest, most deliberate of movements. The floor of the Mariana Trench is dominated by a surprising creature, the holothurian or sea cucumber, which makes up the vast majority of the visible life at these crushing depths. These are not the sluggish lumps of the shallow reefs, but translucent, gelatinous travelers that march endlessly across the dark plains. Picture a small herd of these pale, soft creatures moving methodically across the silt, their internal organs visible through their clear skin. Slowly sifting through the ancient sediment to clean the ocean floor, they move with a unified, silent purpose, unaware of the world above, focused entirely on the patch of sand directly in front of them. They are perfectly adapted to the pressure, their bodies mirroring the fluid nature of the deep. There is something deeply calming about their endless, rhythmic grazing, a simple life dedicated to one humble task. They do not seek glory or light, they simply maintain the balance of their world. This reminds us that every role, no matter how small or hidden, is essential to the health of the whole, and that there is great dignity in performing one's duty with quiet, consistent dedication. The water that fills the bottom of the Mariana Trench is some of the oldest ocean water on the planet, having traveled on a centuries-long journey via the global conveyor belt. This water likely sank from the surface near Antarctica or Greenland over 1,000 years ago, slowly winding its way through the deep currents of the Pacific to settle here. Imagine the journey of a single drop of this water. It began in the bright, cold air of the distant north, and then sank into the dark, drifting silently for a millennium before coming to rest in this cradle of the deep. It carries the memory of a world long past, preserved in the cold, high-minus precious doses of the Hadal zone. It is heavy with age and wisdom, resting peacefully after its long migration. You are floating in history, bathed in fluid that has seen the slow turning of the ages. It is a reminder that patience is the true ruler of the natural world, and that everything eventually finds its pace of rest after a long and winding journey through the currents of time. Dotted along the slopes of the trench are the glass sponges, ancient animals with skeletons made of silica that form intricate, delicate lattices. These are not the soft sponges of the bath, but rigid, beautiful structures that look like vases made of spun sugar or fine crystal. Imagine hovering before one of these pale, ghostly structures, marveling at the complex geometry of its body. It stands perfectly still, rooted to the rock, filtering the water that passes through its glass-like walls. Despite their fragile appearance, they are incredibly strong, designed to withstand the immense crushing weight of the ocean without shattering. They can live for thousands of years, silent sentinels that witness the slow tectonic shifts of the trench. They do not move, they simply allow the ocean to flow through them, taking what they need and letting the rest pass by. They are the embodiment of stillness, glowing faintly in the beam of a submersible's light, solitary and dignified. It is a humbling reminder that it is possible to be both fragile and unbreakable, and that by letting the currents of life flow through us rather than resisting them, we can endure for an eternity with grace and beauty. In the deepest reaches of the trench, we encounter a phenomenon known as abyssal gigantism, where small, familiar creatures grow to immense sizes in the cold, oxygen-minus rich waters. The most famous of these is the giant amphipode, a creature related to the tiny sandhoppers found on beaches, but here, it grows to the size of a human hand. Imagine this smooth, pearly-white creature gliding through the darkness. Its exoskeleton is sleek and polished, shimmering faintly like a piece of bone china against the obsidian backdrop. It moves with a deliberate, paddling motion, its many legs rowing in perfect unison, disturbing nothing as it travels. It is not a monster, but a gentle scavenger, waiting patiently for food to fall from the heavens above. It curls and uncurls in the water, a pale crescent moon drifting in a starless sky, allowing it to become something grander than its surface kin. It floats in a state of perpetual ease, protected by the very depth that would destroy others. It is a reminder that in the quietest and most secluded places we are given the space to grow, to expand, and to become the largest, truest versions of ourselves without fear of judgment. The physics of light plays a fascinating game of subtraction as one descends into the ocean, stripping away the spectrum color by color until only black remains. The color red is the first to be absorbed, vanishing within the first few meters, followed by the oranges, yellows, and finally the greens and blues. Imagine holding a vibrant painting in your hands as you slowly sink deeper. You watch as the warm, angry colors simply fade away, neutralized by the calming filter of the ocean water. The chaotic reds turn to a soothing gray, and the bright yellows dissolve into shadow. Eventually, you are left with a world of monochrome simplicity where visual noise has been muted completely. There is no visual clutter here, no bright flashes to demand your attention. It is a sensory deprivation that feels like a relief, a cleansing of the palate. You are wrapped in a cloak of absolute neutrality, where your eyes can finally rest from the constant stimulation of the surface world. This reminds us that there is a profound peace to be found in simplicity, and that when we strip away the vibrant distractions of life, we are left with a cool, calm clarity that soothes the spirit. Roaming the mid-minus water darkness above the trench floor is the bent Hokontogodon, a deep minus sea jellyfish with a bell as dark and red as a fine wine. However, because radiant light cannot penetrate these depths, this creature is effectively invisible, a ghost swimming in the void. Picture this delicate, pulsing dome moving silently through the water, its hundreds of fine, hair-like tentacles trail behind it like a veil of silk, sensing the water for the slightest vibration. Hypnotic rhythm, a heartbeat swimming on its own. To any other creature in the dark, it simply does not exist. It is cloaked in the natural physics of its home. It moves without fear of being seen, completely integrated into the shadow. It does not need to hide behind rocks or bury itself in the sand. Its very nature is its protection. It drifts in total anonymity, safe and secure in its invisibility. It is a humbling reminder that we do not always need to be seen or acknowledged to be whole, and that there is a quiet safety in simply existing in the background, moving to our own rhythm unseen by the world. Along the slopes of the Mariana Fork, geologists have discovered strange, cold seeps known as serpentine mud volcanoes. These are not violent, fiery mountains, but gentle mounds that slowly ooze a cold, blue-colored mud from deep within the Earth's mantle. Imagine standing before one of these slow-motion geological flows. The mud is thick and smooth, spilling over the edges of the vent like cooling wax or heavy cream, moving at a pace so slow it is almost imperceptible. It is a process of creation that takes eons, a silent, creeping transformation of the landscape. The mud is rich in minerals, creating a strange, slate-blue river that contrasts with the dark sediment around it. It feels cool to the touch, a refreshing balm from the crust of the planet. There is no explosion, no smoke, only a steady, relentless outpouring of the Earth's inner material. It is a testament to the power of slow persistence. This reminds us that true change does not always happen with a bang or a flash, but often flows slowly and steadily from deep within, reshaping our foundation one quiet moment at a time. Life in the Had Owl's Own operates on a completely different metabolic clock than life on the surface. It is a world of suspended animation where time seems to stretch and dilate. Because food is so scarce and the temperature is so low, creatures here live in a state of extreme energy conservation. Imagine a deep sea heart beating inside a small organism. It does not flutter rapidly instead. It pulses once, a strong, slow thud, and then waits. The animals move in a trance-like state, gliding rather than swimming, drifting rather than chasing. They are masters of patience, capable of waiting months for a single meal. There is no rush, no deadlines, no concept of being late. The pace of life is geared down to the absolute minimum required for existence. It is a deep biological meditation, a refusal to burn out. In this slowness, there is longevity. These creatures often live far longer than their hurried counterparts above. It is a reminder that there is no virtue in rushing through existence, and that by slowing down our own internal rhythm, we can endure longer and find a deeper, more sustainable sense of peace. Perched precariously on the rocky outcrops of the trench walls are the tube-dwelling anemones, ghostly sentinels of the deep that have abandoned the colorful reefs for this monochrome world. These creatures build tough, leathery tubes to protect their soft bodies, anchoring themselves firmly against the slow, geological slide of the slopes. Imagine seeing one of these ethereal beings in the beam of a light, its long, slender tentacles flowing outward like a crown of white ribbons, dancing a slow, silent ballet in the absolute darkness. There is no urgency in their swaying. They simply drift with the subtle currents, waiting for whatever sustenance the ocean decides to bring them. They are stark white against the obsidian rock, a contrast of fragility and resilience. They do not hunt with aggression, they wait with grace. They are the flowers of the abyss, blooming in a garden that has never seen the sun. Watching their tentacles ripple is like watching smoke curl in a still room. Hypnotic and endless, it is a reminder that even in the harshest and most barren of landscapes, it is possible to plant deep roots, to find a firm hold, and to bloom with a quiet, spectral beauty. One of the most profound characteristics of the Had Owl's Zone is its total isolation from the weather systems that govern our lives on the surface. While the ocean above may be churned by hurricanes, whipped by gales, or tossed by violent waves, the water in the trench remains in a state of perpetual, undisturbed calm. Imagine the fiercest storm you have ever seen, with crashing thunder and howling winds, and then realize that just a few miles below, that chaos simply ceases to exist. The water is a sanctuary of stillness. There are no seasons, no sudden changes in temperature, no shifting winds. It is a world of absolute consistency, where the environment today is exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago. You are insulated by miles of water, protected by a heavy, liquid shield that absorbs all the noise and fury of the upper world. You drift in a space where turbulence is physically impossible. It is a humbling reminder that beneath the surface level storms of our daily lives and emotions, there is a deep, unshakable core of peace within us that remains calm. Clinging to the coral and rock of the deep are the be-rising sea stars, creatures that look less like starfish and more like delicate underwater sunflowers. Unlike their shoreline cousins, they have many long, thin arms covered in tiny spines, which they hold up into the water column to catch drifting food. Imagine drifting past a colony of these silent creatures. They stand perfectly still, their arms outstretched in a permanent embrace of the water. They do not grasp or claw, they simply extend themselves fully, trusting that the ocean will provide. They are statues of patience, holding their pose for hours or days without twitching. In the darkness, their silhouette looks like a suspended firework, frozen in the moment of explosion. They are completely open to their environment, filtering the deep with a passive, gentle persistence. There is a great serenity in their posture, a lack of resistance to the world around them. It is a reminder that sometimes the most effective way to receive what we need is not to chase it down, but to open our arms wide, stand still, and wait for the currents of life to bring it to us. Resting on the abyssal sediment is one of the most peculiar and peaceful fish in the ocean, the tripod fish. This creature has evolved long, rigid rays on its fins that allow it to stand on the seafloor like a three-legged stool, elevating its body just above the silt. Picture this solitary sentinel standing motionless in the dark, facing into the slow current. It does not swim, it waits. It is the ultimate observer, standing its ground with a quiet dignity. Sensitive pectoral fins arch forward like antennae, feeling the water for the slightest touch of a drifting shrimp. It can stand this way for hours, completely perfectly still, a living sculpture in the Museum of the Deep. It does not waste a single calorie of energy on unnecessary movement. It is perfectly balanced, rooted to the earth by its own biology, stable and secure. Watching it gives you a sense of pause. It is a humbling reminder that there is great strength in stillness, and that by finding our own balance and facing the current with a steady quietness, we can endure anything the world sends our way. As we reach the very end of our journey, touching the deepest point of the trench, we encounter the concept of the empty quarter, the vast, unpaid expanses of the trench floor where life is sparse and the solitude is absolute. This is the frontier of the frontier, a place where the map simply fades into blankness. Imagine walking across this endless, flat plain of grey silt. There are no landmarks, no horizons, only the limit of your own light. You are surrounded by a silence so thick it feels like a heavy blanket. But this emptiness is not lonely, it is spacious. It is a room without walls, a canvas without paint. It is the ultimate decor-tarting, a space where nothing exists to demand your attention or energy. You are free to simply be, floating in the great wide void. It is a reminder that we do not always need to fill every moment with activity or every space with noise, and that there is a profound, healing comfort in simply letting things be empty, silent, and vast. The geological force that created the Mariana Trench is a process known as subduction, where one massive tectonic plate slides slowly and relentlessly beneath another. The Pacific Plate, heavy and ancient, is gradually sinking into the Earth's mantle beneath the Mariana Plate, a movement that has been occurring for millions of years. Imagine this colossal interaction not as a violent crash, but as a deep, geological embrace, occurring at a speed slower than the growth of a human fingernail. In the darkness, the rock grinds against rock in a movement so heavy and gradual that it effectively stands still in human time. There is a tremendous, silent power in this slide, a gathering of tension that is released over eons. You can visualize the Earth recycling itself, the old seafloor melting away to become new magma, a cycle of renewal hidden far beneath the crust. Static beauty. It is a vast, underwater valley carved by the sheer weight of the world. This reminds us that the most powerful changes in our lives often happen imperceptibly slowly, and that true transformation is a long, patient process of letting go of the old to make room for the new. Scattered across the rocky seamounts that rise from the abyss of the deep-sea black corals, living organisms that can live for over 4,000 years. These are the oldest continuously living animals on the planet, silent witnesses to the rise and fall of human civilizations above. Imagine wandering through a forest of these skeletal ebony trees. They do not have leaves, but delicate, feathery polyps that extend into the dark water to catch the drifting marine snow. They stand perfectly still in the weak currents, growing only a fraction of a millimeter each year. They are in no rush to become large, they are content simply to endure. Their branches are dark and rigid, anchoring them against the flow of time itself. They have flourished in the cold and the dark, finding a way to thrive where nothing else can. There is a deep, reverent atmosphere in these coral groves, a sense of sacred preservation. It is a humbling reminder that longevity comes not from rushing to grow, but from finding a stable place to stand and weathering the passing currents with a quiet, unshakable resilience. When a great whale reaches the end of its life and sinks from the surface, it creates a phenomenon known as a whale fall, a sudden, massive oasis of nutrients on the barren trench floor. This single event can sustain a localized ecosystem for decades, creating a bustling city of life in the middle of the desert. Imagine the massive, white silhouette of the whale resting peacefully on the gray silt. It is no longer a creature of the open ocean, but a gift to the deep. Respectful gathering of crabs, hagfish, and worms takes place, then move with a quiet industry, recycling the energy back into the ocean. The scene is not one of decay, but of transformation and renewal. In the absolute darkness, the bones seem to glow with the energy they provide, a beacon for the hungry travelers of the abyss. Life here blooms in the shadow of death, a cycle that is perfectly efficient and endlessly kind. And that what seems like an ending is often just the beginning of a long, generous contribution to the lives of others. Directly above the sediment of the trench floor lies a unique hydrographic feature called the benthic boundary layer. This is a zone of water, sometimes tens of meters thick, where the friction of the seafloor causes the current to slow down significantly, creating a blanket of near-minus stagnant water. Imagine wrapping yourself in this layer, a heavy, fluid quilt that protects the bottom from the swifter currents above. In this zone, the ocean holds its breath, hesitating before they finally settle. It is a buffer zone, a place of transition between the moving ocean and the solid earth. The physics of the deep create a space of minimal resistance where the water clings to the earth in a static hug. It is a realm of muffled movement, where turbulence is smoothed out into laminar, peaceful flow. You float here, caught in the friction, held steady by the floor itself. It is a humbling reminder that the closer we get to our foundations, the calmer the world becomes, and that finding our ground often means finding our peace. Deep within the rocks of the trench walls, and even deeper into the crust beneath the sediment, lies the deep biosphere. Here, microscopic life forms exist inside the tiny pores of the stone, living independently of the sun and the ocean above. These endo-eliths reproduce only once every few centuries, living at a metabolic pace that is almost indistinguishable from death. Imagine these tiny sparks of life sleeping inside the rock. They do not need light, they feed on the chemical energy of the earth itself, slowly processing the minerals around them. They are the ultimate introverts, hidden away in the most secure fortress on the planet. They have existed this way for millions of years, unaffected by ice ages, meteors, or wars. They are simply there, existing in a state of deep geological meditation. They represent life stripped down to its most durable, essential form. This reminds us that the spark of life is incredibly tenacious, capable of enduring the hardest conditions by simply slowing down, turning energy to survive from deep within. Deep within the abyss, stalking across the soft sediment on legs that seem impossibly long and fragile, is the Colossendies, or the giant sea spider. While their surface relatives are barely the size of a fingernail, here in the dark, the phenomenon of deep-sea gigantism allows them to grow to the size of a dinner plate or larger. Imagine stumbling upon this silent strider in the gloom, lifting one spindly leg after another in a motion that looks like a film played at half-minus speed. It does not scuttle or rush its steps with deliberation, planting each foot carefully in the ooze. Its body is so thin that its vital organs are housed within its legs, integrating its very life force into its movement. It is a creature of geometry and patience, patrolling the vast empty plains for food. It casts a long skeletal shadow in the beam of a submersible, a ghost on stilts navigating the end of the world. It looks delicate, as if it might snap under a gaze, yet it thrives under the pressure of 8 tons per square inch. It is a reminder that true resilience often looks like fragility, and that one can navigate the heaviest burdens with a light, delicate touch. To truly understand the scale of the Mariana Trench, we must look to the highest points of our world for comparison, and realize they are dwarfed by this depth. If we were to take Mount Everest, the roof of the world, and place it gently into the Challenger Deep, its summit would still be covered by over 2 kilometers of dark water. Imagine this inversion in your mind. Picture the great mountain sinking slowly into the trench, the snow-capped peak vanishing beneath the waves, descending down, past the sunlight, past the twilight, until it rests on the bottom. Even standing on that highest peak, you would still be lost in the crushing dark, looking up at a ceiling of water miles away. The sheer verticality of this space is overwhelming, a canyon that swallows the greatest monuments of the land. It creates a sense of vertigo, a realization of how deep the earth truly goes. The trench hides its magnitude in the quiet dark, holding a volume of space that the mind struggles to encompass. It is a humbling reminder that the unknown depths of our world are far greater than the known heights, and that there are always deeper mysteries waiting beneath the surface of what we can see. Drifting through the mid-water column, suspended between the surface and the floor, are the sea tenopores or comb jellies, ancient creatures that have pulsed through the oceans for millions of years. Unlike true jellyfish, they swim using rows of tiny, hair-like cilia that beat in a coordinated, rippling wave. Imagine watching one of these translucent orbs gliding through the eternal night. As the cilia beat, they refract the non-existent light, creating a rhythmic, shimmering effect along the sides of its body. It is a silent engine of motion, a creature of pure rhythm. It moves without effort, steering itself through the void with the gentlest of currents. It is 95% water, almost indistinguishable from the medium in which it lives. It does not fight the ocean, it is made of the ocean. It floats in a state of perfect buoyancy, neither rising nor falling, just existing in the suspension of the deep. A ceaseless, microscopic drumming that propels it forward. It is a reminder that we all have an internal rhythm that guides us, a quiet, steady pulse that keeps us moving forward, even when the world around us is dark and still. Standing upright on the seafloor like surreal, alien vegetation is the Chondi or Ocladiae, known as the ping-spong tree sponge. This carnivorous sponge breaks all the rules of its kind, abandoning the filter-feeding lifestyle to become a static hunter. Picture a thin, vertical stalk rising from the mud, branching out into delicate arms tipped with translucent, sphere-like bulbs. It looks exactly like a modernist lamp left glowing in the dark, or a strange. It stands perfectly motionless, waiting for tiny crustaceans to bump into its Velcro-like surface. There is no chase, no violence, only a passive, silent waiting. It is a sculpture of utility, designed perfectly for this low-energy environment. It captures its sustenance by simply being there, by occupying its space with quiet confidence. The water flows around its spherical limbs, disturbing nothing, It is a bizarre, beautiful example of life finding a way in the most inhospitable conditions. It is a humbling reminder that life does not always look the way we expect it to, and that sometimes the most successful strategy is to simply stand your ground, extend your reach, and wait for the world to come to you. At these extreme depths, the water itself undergoes a physical change that is imperceptible to the eye but profound in its nature. While we are taught that water is incompressible, the weight of the 11 kilometers of ocean above is so immense that the water at the bottom of the trench is actually compressed, becoming denser than the water at the surface. Imagine being wrapped in this dense liquid. It is not just water anymore, it is a shield, protective barrier that hugs you from every conceivable angle. The molecules are packed tighter together, creating a medium that supports you with an unwavering firmness. It is a heavy water, rich with the power of the entire ocean pressing down. But this pressure is not a crushing force to those who belong there. It is a warm, swaddling embrace. It holds the inhabitants of the deep together, keeping them whole. You are held in the tightest, safest grip the planet can offer, suspended in a substance that refuses to let you go. It is a reminder that sometimes feeling a heavy weight around us is actually a form of protection, a grounding force that keeps us stable, secure, and held together against the drift. One of the most remarkable examples of life's ability to renew itself in the deep is found in the genus Osedax, commonly known as zombie worms. Despite their ominous name, these are delicate, flower-like creatures that have no mouth or stomach, anchoring themselves instead to the bones of fallen whales to recycle nutrients back into the ocean. Imagine stumbling upon a fallen bone in the absolute darkness, only to find it covered in a soft, waving carpet of these tiny, reddish plumes. They look like a garden of underwater poppies blooming in the night, swaying gently in the subtle current. The worms extend their root-like structures deep into the bone, dissolving it with a slow, chemical patience, transforming the hard calcium into sustenance. It is a silent, colorful feast in a monochrome world, a scene of quiet industry where death is converted into vibrant life. The red plumes ripple like velvet in the water, a stark contrast to the white bone and the black abyss. Slow motion process of reclamation that cleans the ocean floor. This reminds us that in the grand cycle of nature, nothing is ever truly wasted, and that even from the remnants of the past, new and beautiful life can bloom with a quiet, persistent grace. Patrolling the slopes just above the hard owl zone are the macroeurideas, or granidas, fish that are characterized by their large heads and long, tapering tails that trail behind them like ribbons. These fish are the slow wanderers of the deep, using their sensitive lateral lines to detect the faintest vibrations in the water. Picture this solitary swimmer, moving through the gloom. It does not use a tail fin to push against the water instead. It undulates its long, ribbon-like body in a continuous, sine-wave motion. It moves with the grace of a ribbon caught in a breeze, effortless and fluid. Its large eyes scan the darkness, not for sunlight but for the faint, ghostly glimmer of bioluminescence from other creatures. It is a master of energy conservation, gliding for hours without seemingly moving a muscle, perfectly at ease in the crushing depth. It is not in a hurry to get anywhere. The journey is the destination. It is a humbling reminder that moving through life with a smooth, continuous flow is often more sustainable than sudden bursts of speed, and that there is elegance in a long, tapering finish. In the deepest parts of the trench, the concept of visual color becomes entirely obsolete, leaving only a texture of absolute, perfect blackness. This is not the dark of a room with the lights off. It is a heavy, physical darkness where the photon simply does not exist. Imagine wrapping yourself in a cloak made of this Hadal dark. It is soft, thick, and velvety, a material that absorbs every worry and every visual distraction you have ever known. There is no horizon to scan, no movement to track, no bright lights to process. It is the ultimate rest for the senses, a complete and total visual silence. You are floating in a void that is comfortable and safe, a place where the mind can stop projecting images and simply rest in the neutral state of being. The darkness feels like a cool compress on the forehead, a soothing balm that quiets the active brain. It is a reminder that true rest often comes from removing the constant stimulation of the world, and that in the absence of light, we can finally find the deep, restorative peace that lives in the quiet shadows. The mapping of the Mariana Trench is still an ongoing process, and there are vast stretches of the trench floor that remain more mysterious to us than the surface of Mars. These unpaid zones are the terra incognita of our planet, blank spaces on the chart where no human eye or camera has ever looked. Imagine drifting over one of these hidden valleys, knowing that you are the first consciousness to ever witness it. It might hold ancient rock formations, undiscovered species, or simply miles of pristine, undisturbed silt. There is a profound sanctity in this unknown, a sense of privacy that the Earth maintains against our prying eyes. You are floating in a mystery that does not need to be solved, only respected. The silence you feels older, deeper, and more profound. It is a space of pure potential, untouched by names or measurements. It is a humbling reminder that not everything in this life needs to be known, categorized, or understood, and that there is a deep spiritual health in allowing some mysteries to remain vast, silent, and unexplored. Deep ocean water is not just stagnant liquid, it is a distinct chemical entity with an age that can be measured in centuries. The water molecules filling the bottom of the Challenger Deep have been isolated from the atmosphere for over 1,000 years, slowly absorbing the silence of the crust. Imagine this water as a vintage wine, heavy and rich with time. It has settled here after a long, winding journey through the world's oceans, finally finding a place to rest, held in place by its own density and coldness. It wraps around the rocks and the creatures like a preservation fluid, keeping the deep world in a state of suspended stasis. It is calm, heavy, and incredibly patient. As you drift through it, you are swimming in history, touching a substance that has not felt the wind since the Middle Ages. It is a liquid archive of peace. It is a reminder that patience is a force of nature, and that by allowing ourselves to settle deeply into one place, we can attain a state of heavy, grounded calm that withstands the turning of the ages. Drifting through the mid-minus water depths, we find the cranchid or glass squid, a creature that has mastered the art of invisibility to survive in the twilight. Instead of developing thick armor or sharp spines, this delicate being has chosen to become completely transparent, allowing the faint light to pass directly through its body without casting a shadow. Imagine watching this living sculpture of glass hovering in the obsidian water. Rhythmic movement of its internal organs, which are wrapped in a reflective camouflage to hide them from view. It moves with a silent, jet-propelled grace, a phantom in the deep. It is a creature made of the water itself, a bubble of life that has erased the boundaries between itself and its environment. It floats without ego, without a silhouette, merging perfectly with the void around it. It does not hide behind rocks, it hides in plain sight. There is a profound purity in its existence, a refusal to obstruct the light. It is a reminder that sometimes the best way to move through a difficult world is not to build walls around ourselves, but to become clear, open, and transparent, letting the troubles pass right through us without leaving a mark. To survive the crushing weight of the water column, the cells of deep-minus sea creatures are filled with a special stabilizing molecule known as TMAO, or trimethylamine N-oxide. This substance acts as a microscopic buffer, preventing the immense pressure from distorting the proteins of life, essentially balancing the internal pressure with the external weight. Imagine this process not as a chemical reaction, but as a perfect, fluid equilibrium. There is a force pushing out that exactly equals the force pushing in. There is no struggle, no resistance, only a perfect match. The creature does not feel the weight of the ocean because it has internalized the ocean's power. It has become as strong as the water surrounding it. Picture this state of balance where the pressure is not a burden, but a hug that holds the creature together. It is a state of total physical harmony. It is a humbling reminder that when we match the pressures of the outside world with an equal measure of inner strength and balance, we cease to feel the weight of our burdens and can move freely through the heaviest of times. Before the ocean floor drops into the trench, it stretches out into the abyssal plains, the flattest and most extensive environments on Earth. These vast mud-covered expanses cover more than half of the planet's surface, yet remain largely unseen. Imagine walking across this infinite, grey desert in the deep. It is a landscape of absolute uniformity, stretching out for thousands of miles without a single tree, hill, or building to break the line. A blank canvas of the deep. There are no obstacles here, no barriers, only an endless open path. The silence is amplified by the emptiness, creating a cathedral of space. You are free to drift in any direction, unhindered by the clutter of geography. It is a place where the eye can rest, for there is nothing to demand its focus. The monotony is not boring, it is soothing. It quiets the mind by offering no distractions. It is a reminder that we often clutter our lives with too many things, and that finding a wide, open space of emptiness can provide the ultimate freedom to breathe, to think, and to simply exist without obstruction. In the sunlit world above, life is governed by the circadian rhythms of day and night, the rising and setting of the sun, and the changing of the seasons. But in the Had al-Zone, these cycles simply do not exist. It is a realm of the eternal now, where it is always night, always cold, and always summer, winter, spring, and autumn all at once. Imagine a place where time has lost its relevance. The environment is frozen in a perpetual moment of stability. A day feels like a year, and a century passes like a drifting cloud. The inhabitants here live in a continuous flow of existence, unmarked by the passage of hours. You drift in this timeless suspension, liberated from the urgency of the surface. The pressure to do is replaced by the permission to be. It is a sanctuary from the tyranny of time. It is a humbling reminder that the stress of time is a human invention. There is a timeless, eternal state of being where we can rest, untouched by the frantic ticking of the world above. Deep in the trench, the concept of up and down begins to lose its meaning, replaced by a simple sense of suspension within the volume of the ocean. The water provides a buoyant force that counteracts gravity, allowing creatures to float effortlessly in three-dimensional space. Imagine the sensation of total weightlessness, similar to being an astronaut in space, but held in a thick, comforting fluid. You are not falling, you are hovering, completely released from the pull of the earth. Your limbs feel light, your body unburdened. The heavy water supports every inch of you, lifting the weight of your bones and muscles. It is the ultimate release of tension, a physical surrender to the medium. You are a speck of consciousness floating in the great, dark womb of the planet. There is no effort required to stay aloft. The ocean does the work for you. It is a reminder that we do not always have to hold ourselves up or carry our own weight, and that if we trust the universe enough to let go, we will be supported, held, and carried by forces much greater than ourselves. Scuttling slowly across the ocean floor is the Mus gigantus, a creature that resembles a prehistoric, armored pill bug magnified to the size of a household cat. These giant isopods are the heavy tanks of the deep, encased in a thick, segmented shell of pale lilac that protects them from the crushing world outside. Imagine encountering this ancient traveler in the dark. It moves with a clunky, mechanical rhythm. It curls itself into a perfect, impenetrable ball, a sphere of armor that refuses to interact with the danger. It can remain in this curled state for hours, completely sealed off from the environment, waiting patiently for the trouble to pass. It is a master of self-preservation, a fortress of one. It exists in a state of constant readiness and constant rest, never hurrying, never exposing its soft underbelly to the world. It is a humbling reminder that it is okay to close ourselves off when the world becomes too much, to curl up and protect our softest parts, and to wait patiently until we feel safe enough to unfurl and move forward once again. The scientific name for this deepest zone, Hadal, is derived from Hades, the ancient Greek god of the underworld, a realm described not as a place of punishment, but simply as the unseen. It is a kingdom defined by its hidden nature, a place that exists entirely apart from the vision of the sun and the knowledge of the surface. Imagine this domain not as a place of fear, but as a vast, secret garden that has been kept private for the entire history of the earth. The quiet corner of the room that prefers the shadows. You are drifting through a world that does not want to be watched, a place that is comfortable in its own anonymity. The darkness here is a veil of privacy, a curtain drawn tight against the prying eyes of the sky. It is a space where things can exist simply for the sake of existing, without the need for validation or audience. This reminds us that there is a deep, sacred value in our own private worlds, and that keeping parts of ourselves hidden and unseen can be a source of great strength and personal peace. The exploration of the Mariana Trench is often compared to space travel, yet the reality is that fewer humans have descended to this point than have walked on the surface of the moon. We call this inner space, a frontier that looks inward toward the core of our planet rather than outward toward the stars. Imagine yourself as one of these rare, solitary voyagers, encased in a tiny sphere of titanium, descending into the heart of the world. The stars above are replaced by the bioluminescent sparks of the abyss, and the vacuum of space is replaced by the heavy, warm embrace of the water. You are traveling into the Earth's memory, moving backwards through time and depth. The isolation is total, yet it feels intimate. You are closer to the center of the planet than anyone else, held in the deepest pocket of the globe. It is a journey of introspection, a physical manifestation of looking within. It is a reminder that the most profound discoveries are often found, not by reaching out to the furthest edges of the universe, but by diving deep into the center of our own being. The tectonic plates that form the walls of the Mariana Trench are composed of some of the oldest oceanic crust on the planet, rock that was formed during the Jurassic period, over 150 million years ago. These massive slabs of stone have traveled slowly across the entire Pacific Ocean to reach this final resting place where they will eventually return to the mantle. Imagine reaching out to touch the cold, dark rock of the trench wall, a stone that existed before the flowers bloomed on land, before the great mammals walked the earth. It is cool, smooth, and incredibly heavy with age. It stands silent and immovable, a witness to the slow, grinding evolution of the world. It is about to complete a cycle that takes eons, sinking back into the fire to be reborn. There is a solemn dignity in this ancient rock, a patience that dwarfs human comprehension. It is a humbling reminder that we are part of a vast, slow, moving cycle of renewal, and that even the oldest, hardest parts of our past can eventually be recycled into something new and fluid. As we come to rest at the very bottom of the world, suspended in the soft, silent water of the Challenger Deep, we realize that the abyss is not a void of nothingness, but a reservoir of peace. The weight of the ocean above is not crushing, it is grounding. The darkness is not blinding, it is restful. Imagine yourself simply floating here, perfectly balanced, perfectly safe, in the deepest sanctuary on earth. The glare of screens and the demands of society as it is possible to be. You are held in the eternal, patient arms of the Mother Ocean. The water supports you, the darkness soothes you, and the silence heals you. You are at the foundation of everything, the quiet baseline of the world. This final stillness is a reminder that no matter how high the waves crash on the surface, or how stormy the weather becomes, there is always a place of infinite, unbreakable calm deep within us, waiting for us to return, to sink down, and to rest. Scattered across the vast, abyssal plains of the ocean floor, far away from the tectonic violence of the trench walls, lie fields of peculiar, potato-sized rocks known as polymetallic nodules. These are not ordinary stones, but concentrated lumps of manganese and iron that have precipitated slowly from the seawater itself over millions of years. Imagine sitting quietly on the sediment and watching one of these black, knobbly stones grow. It is a process so agonizingly slow that it makes the movement of a glacier seem frantic. By comparison, a single nodule takes millions of years to grow just a few millimeters. They sit there in the eternal dark, layer upon microscopic layer adding to their girth, witnessing the passing of geological epochs in total silence. They are the pearls of the abyss, formed not by irritation, but by the patient accumulation of time. They are unconnected to the bedrock, simply resting loose on the soft mud, free yet heavy with age. There is a profound stillness in their presence, a sense of having nowhere to go and nothing to do but simply exist and grow. It is a humbling reminder that great things can be built from the smallest of particles if one has enough patience, and that true substance is often formed in the quietest, slowest moments of our lives. Deep within the fractured rock of the trench walls, the adult snailfish performs an act of tender dedication, laying its eggs in the deepest nurseries on the planet. Unlike many surface fish that release their spawn into the chaotic open water, these deep-mine seed dwellers hide their clutch of eggs in the safety of narrow crevices, protected from the currents and predators. Picture a small cluster of translucent, pearl-like spheres nestled securely in a dark fold of ancient rock, gently fanning the water with its pectoral fins to ensure a steady supply of oxygen to the developing embryos. In this world of crushing pressure and freezing cold, a tiny spark of new life is being carefully nurtured. The eggs are safe here, tucked away in the planet's pocket, far removed from the storms and struggles of the world above. They develop in a womb of absolute stability, cradled by the earth itself. It is a reminder that the most vulnerable parts of ourselves deserve to be protected with great care, and that finding a safe, hidden sanctuary is often the first step in nurturing new growth and new beginnings. Drifting gracefully above the seafloor is the Egyptian Steximiae, often called the headless chicken monster, though its movements are far more elegant than its name suggests. This is a swimming sea cucumber, a creature that has evolved a webbed veil, allowing it to lift off the sediment and dance through the water column. Imagine this crimson colored fountain rising slowly from the grey mud, billowing like a silk scarf caught in a gentle breeze. It does not swim with effort, it floats with intention. It touches down briefly to feed, then lifts off again, a nomadic grazer of the deep. Its internal organs are visible through its skin, a display of total vulnerability and honesty. It flows through the water, expanding and contracting, a heartbeat of the abyss. It has transcended the limitations of its bottom-dwelling cousins. It is a humbling reminder that we are not defined by the labels placed upon us, and that even the most grounded among us can find the capacity to rise, to dance. Growing from the rocky substrates of the seamounts that border the trench are the bamboo corals, named for their jointed, skeletal structures that resemble the stalks of bamboo plants on land. These deep sea corals are not colorful or soft, they are rigid, pale, and incredibly resilient, building their skeletons from calcium carbonate and protein to withstand the pressure. Imagine a silent, white forest of these slender stalks rising from the black rock. Their delicate branches extended like open hands to catch the marine snow drifting down from above. They do not compete for sunlight, they cooperate with the current. Each joint in their frame allows for a tiny amount of flexibility, letting them sway imperceptibly without breaking. They are ancient watchers, some colonies living for hundreds of years, recording the history of the ocean in their growth rings. They create a habitat for others, a structure in the void, minimalist beauty to their form. It is a reminder that flexibility and strength are not opposites but partners, and that by allowing ourselves to bend slightly with the current of life, we can remain standing for centuries. As we settle our focus on the very bottom of the Challenger Deep, we must consider the sheer physical stability of this place. This is the ultimate ground floor of the world, a place where gravity has pulled everything that can sink. Once something arrives, a ray grain of sand, a drop of water, a fallen bone, it stops. Imagine the sensation of finally stopping after a long fall. There is no further to go. You have reached the solid foundation upon which the rest of the ocean rests. The feeling here is one of total, heavy permanence. The mud is thick and packed, holding the weight of the water with ease. You are not suspended anymore, you are grounded. You are supported by the crust of the earth, held up by the rock that floats on the mantle. The anxiety of falling, of drifting, of searching is over. You are home. It is a humbling reminder that hitting the bottom is not a failure, but a finding of one's foundation, a place of ultimate support where we can finally stop falling, catch our breath, and rest on solid ground. Due to the unique V-shaped topography of the Mariana Trench, the steep walls act as a massive, geological funnel that gently guides falling organic matter toward the very bottom. While the abyssal plains above are often sparse and hungry, the deepest point of the trench is actually a place of accumulation, where the ocean's bounty rolls down the slopes to gather in the center. Imagine this slow, gravitational process as a form of gathering, where the trench opens its wide arms to catch the drifting nutrients of the sea. You watch as a piece of marine snow lands softly on the slope, then rolls slowly, almost lazily, down the incline, joined by thousands of other particles on a long journey to the nadir. It is a slow motion landslide of sustenance, moving with a silent, inevitable grace toward the deepest pocket of the earth. The trench does not have to hunt or strive, it simply shapes itself to receive, allowing gravity to do the work of provisioning. It creates a concentration of life in the deepest dark, a hidden oasis fueled by the simple geometry of the fall. It is a humbling reminder that sometimes the most effective way to gather what we need is not to chase it, but to shape ourselves into a vessel that is open, receptive, and ready to catch the blessings that naturally flow our way. Clinging to the jagged rocks of the trench walls are vast, silent mats of chemosynthetic bacteria, appearing like shaggy carpets of orange, white, and yellow in the beam of a submersible. These microbial meadows do not need the sun to survive. Instead, they consume the chemical minerals seeping from the cold rocks, turning the stone itself into energy. Picture yourself gliding over these soft, fuzzy landscapes which ripple gently in the faint currents like fields of wheat in a slow motion breeze. They cover the hard, unforgiving basalt with a layer of softness, transforming a barren wall into a living tapestry. There is no photosynthesis here, no reach for the sky, only a quiet, chemical communion with the earth. The bacteria work in total silence, breaking down the elemental building blocks of the planet to sustain their colonies. They flourish in conditions that would be toxic to others, a testament to life's ability to adapt. This reminds us that we do not always need external light or perfect conditions to grow, and that we possess the internal alchemy to transform even the hardest, darkest circumstances into a source of nourishment and life. The sedimentation rate in the Mariana Trench is incredibly slow, with the layer of soft ooze on the bottom accumulating at a rate of only 1 centimeter every 1,000 years. This means that the top few inches of the sediment represent a history that spans back to the dawn of human civilization. Imagine lying down on this soft gray bed, watching the dust of the ocean fall one microscopic grain at a time. You would have to wait an entire lifetime just to see a visible layer form. It is a clock that ticks so slowly. It is a clock that ticks so slowly it effectively stops time altogether. The dust settles with a gentleness that is impossible to replicate in the air. It hovers, considers its landing, and then touches down without a sound. This environment demands a patience that transcends our understanding of urgency. It is a world built by the tiniest additions over the longest periods. There is no rushing the geology of the deep. It is a humbling reminder that true depth and substance are not built overnight, but are the result of a long, quiet accumulation of small moments, settling one by one to form a foundation that lasts for eternity. Because the water in the trench is so far removed from the wind and waves of the surface, the movement of the liquid here creates a phenomenon known as laminar flow. Unlike the turbulent, chaotic churning of the upper ocean, the water in the deep moves in smooth, parallel layers that slide past each other without mixing or disruption. Imagine moving your hand through this water. It does not splash or swirl, it parts effortlessly around you and then closes back up. It is a flow of perfect order, a streamlined movement that wastes no energy on friction or chaos. The water feels silky and coherent, acting as a single, unified body rather than a collection of colliding molecules. It travels with a clear sense of direction and a calm, steady purpose. You are bathed in a fluid that has mastered the art of movement without disturbance. It is a liquid meditation, a physical manifestation of grace. It is a reminder that it is possible to move through the world and navigate changes without creating turbulence, maintaining a smooth, steady flow that preserves our energy and keeps our peace intact. As we reach the conclusion of our descent, hovering just above the deepest point of the Challenger Deep, we are enveloped by the absolute, crushing stability of the Hadal Zone. Here, the pressure is more than 1,000 times that of the atmosphere at sea level, a force that holds everything in a state of permanent, unshakable equilibrium. Imagine this pressure not as a weight, but as a seal. It seals out the noise, the light, the confusion, and the variability of the surface world. You are locked safely inside the heart of the planet, protected by a barrier that nothing can penetrate. The water holds you from all sides with an intensity that feels like love, a grip so tight it prevents you from falling apart. In this space you are completely integrated into the silence. There is nowhere else to go, and nothing else to be. You have arrived at the center of the stillness. It is a humbling reminder that when we allow ourselves to sink fully into the present moment, accepting the weight of where we are, we find a sanctuary of absolute safety where we are held, whole and complete, in the silent embrace of the universe. One of the most endearing inhabitants of the trench floor is the SCO2 plains, commonly known as the sea pig. These are small, chubby sea cucumbers that have evolved stubby, leg-minus-like appendages to walk across the abyssal mud. Imagine a small herd of these soft, pinkish creatures moving slowly across the endless grey plain. They look almost inflated, like water-minus-filled balloons, grazing peacefully in the silence, extracting nutrients from the ancient dust. They are social creatures in their own quiet way, often found gathering in large groups, all facing the same direction into the current. There is no aggression in their world, only a shared, slow pilgrimage across the bottom of the ocean. They move with a clumsy but determined grace, perfectly adapted to a world that would crush anything else. It is a humbling reminder that even in the most desolate and serious of environments, there is room for softness, for community, and for a gentle, simple existence that asks for nothing more than what lies directly beneath its feet. Drifting in the oxygen-minus minimum zones above the trench is the Vampa or Tu, this infernal, a creature whose name means vampire, squid from hell, yet whose nature is incredibly passive and gentle. Unlike its aggressive namesake, this deep-minus red creature feeds almost exclusively on drifting marine snow. Imagine this animal floating in the obsidian void, its body the color of deep rust or dried blood. It inverts its webbed arms over its body like a cloak or a cape, wrapping itself in a protective cocoon. It drifts through the water like a suspended umbrella, collecting tiny particles of food onto long, retractable filaments that trail behind it like fishing lines. It does not hunt, it gathers. It moves with a serene, hypnotic course, turning itself inside out in a slow ballet of defense. It is a reminder that we should not judge things by their names or appearances, and that even those who look like monsters can be peaceful, gentle collectors of the quiet drift. Rising from the rocky outcrops of the trench walls are the stalked crinoids, also known as sea lilies. These are animals that look remarkably like flowers, tethered to the ground by a long, flexible stem. Imagine a field of these pale, feathery creatures swaying gently in the weak abyss currents. They are living fossils unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, remnants of a prehistoric ocean. They do not have eyes or a brain, they are pure instinct and reaction. When the current changes, they slowly rotate their flower-minus heads to face the flow, a movement so gradual it is imperceptible to the human eye. They stand as silent sentinels of the deep, rooted and patient. In the beam of a submersible, they look like a garden of white palms growing on the moon. There is a profound elegance in their stillness. It is a humbling reminder that there is beauty in being rooted, and that by standing firm and opening ourselves to the environment, we can flourish even in the darkest of gardens. Shimmering in the darkness of the trench is the deep-sea scale worm, a polychaete that carries its own glittering armor. Unlike the dull mud around it, this creature is covered in overlapping scales that can flash with iridescence, sparkling with blues, golds, and purples even in the faint light. Imagine the small, segmented traveler winding its way through the sediment. It moves with a fluid, serpentine motion, its many bristles paddling in perfect unison. A spark of color in a monochrome world. The scales are not just for show, they are a tough defense against the pressures of its life. It burrows and explores, carrying its own light and beauty wherever it goes. It does not need the sun to shine, it creates its own spectacle. Watching it ripple through the dark is mesmerizing, like seeing a piece of tinsel floating in the night sky. It is a reminder that we all carry a hidden brilliance within us. We have the capacity to shine and bring a touch of color to the gray world around us. The water mass that fills the Mariana Trench is not merely cold, it is near freezing, hovering just above the point where it would turn to ice. This intense cold creates a stabilizing effect on everything it touches, slowing down chemical reactions and preserving biological matter. Imagine the sensation of this perfect, preserving cold. It is not a biting, wind-driven chill, but a still, heavy coolness that seeps into the very atoms of the deep, where decay is slowed to a crawl. A piece of wood that falls here might last for decades, its form perfectly held by the frigid water. The temperature is constant, unchanging, a permanent winter that protects the deep from the rot of heat and speed. You are wrapped in a cryoterium of the earth, a place where time loses its power to degrade. It is a clean, crisp environment of absolute preservation. Cooling down and stepping away from the heat of passion or action is the best way to preserve who we are. allowing us to remain whole and unchanged by the burning passage of time. Deep in the midnight's own and below, we find the iconic melon Osedax johnsoni, commonly known as the humpback anglerfish. While often depicted as a fearsome predator in the vast, lonely expanse of the deep, it is simply a solitary traveler carrying its own lantern. Imagine this small, spherical shadow drifting through the absolute void. Extending from its forehead is a slender, flexible rod, tipped with a glowing bulb of bioluminescent bacteria. A beacon that gently sways with the creature's slow movements. The light is soft and pale, casting a weak halo that barely illuminates the fish's own face. It moves with a patient, hovering buoyancy, waiting in the silence for curiosity to bring the world to it. In a place where eyes are almost useless, this single point of light is a declaration of existence. It is a lonely but brave display, a refusal to be swallowed completely by the dark. It is a humbling reminder that even in the deepest, most consuming darkness, we all possess the capacity to generate our own light and to hold it out before us as a guide through the unknown. There is a specific layer of the ocean, typically found just above the deep abyss, known as the SOFAR channel, or the sound fixing and ranging channel. Here, the unique combination of temperature and pressure creates a horizontal tunnel where sound waves are trapped and can travel for thousands of miles without losing their energy. Imagine these low frequency sounds moving through this invisible highway, the whispers of the ocean traveling from one side of the planet to the other. You might hear the mournful, melodic song of a blue whale singing off the coast of Antarctica, its voice carried intact to the listening waters of the equator. It is a global network of communication, a slow, sonic web that connects the separated seas. The sound does not rush, it undulates, bending within the channel, preserved by the ocean's physics. It creates a background hum, a constant, comforting vibration that fills the deep. You are listening to the collective heartbeat of the marine world. It is a reminder that even when we feel isolated by great distances, there are unseen connections that bind us together, and that our voices can travel much further than we ever imagine if they find the right depth. Occasionally, the deep ocean receives a gift from the land in the form of a wood-fallow tree or branch that has drifted out to sea, become waterlogged, and sunk miles down to the trench floor. This creates a rare and temporary ecosystem where terrestrial matter feeds the aquatic world. Imagine a massive, ancient oak tree resting on the grey, luminous-like sediment of the Hadal Zone. It is a stranger in a strange land, a piece of the forest lost in the abyss. Specialized clams known as X while up hog a burrow into the wood, slowly breaking it down, while bacteria carpet the bark in a white fuzz. It becomes an island of life in the desolate plain, a bridge between the photosynthesis of the canopy and the chemosynthesis of the deep. The tree gives its body to the ocean, continuing to serve a purpose long after it has fallen. It is a scene of slow, respectful recycling. This reminds us that nature recognizes no waste, and that even when we feel out of place, we can still provide nourishment and shelter to those around us in unexpected ways. The microscopic life of the sediment is dominated by the foraminifera, tiny single-celled organisms that build intricate, beautiful shells out of calcium carbonate. Despite being no larger than a grain of sand, these creatures are the architects of the abyss, their discarded shells making up a vast portion of the ocean floor's mud. Imagine holding a magnifying glass to the grey ooze and discovering that it is made of millions of tiny, spiraled palaces. And some like miniature flowers, all crafted with perfect geometric precision in the absolute dark. They live their quiet lives constructing these protective homes, extracting minerals from the water one atom at a time. They are the silent builders of the deep, creating beauty that no eye is meant to see. They drift, they build, and they settle, layer upon layer, measuring out the history of the earth in microscopic increments. It is a humbling reminder that beauty does not need an audience to be valid, and that creating a safe, beautiful home for oneself is a worthy task, no matter how small or hidden it may be. When the Bathwy Cap heat reached first touched the bottom of the Challenger Deep in 1960, the impact of its landing stirred up a massive cloud of diatomous ooze. This cloud was so fine and so thick that it completely obscured the view from the porthole, enveloping the explorers in a milk of the deep. Imagine sitting inside that sphere, waiting for the cloud to clear. In the high minus pressure, low minus energy environment of the trench, the dust does not settle quickly, it hangs suspended, taking nearly 20 minutes to slowly drift back down to the floor. It is a lesson in enforced patience. You cannot wave the water away, you cannot hurry the physics. You must simply sit in the whiteout and wait for gravity to do its work. Slowly, imperceptibly, the veil begins to thin, revealing the secrets of the bottom inch by inch. The stillness eventually returns, restoring the clarity of the water. It is a reminder that when our own lives are stirred up and clouded by impact or chaos, the only way to find clarity again is to sit still, wait patiently, and allow the dust to settle in its own time. And so we drift to the end of our quiet journey through the deepest scar of our blue world. We have descended past the reach of the sun, floating into a kingdom where the crushing weight of the water transforms into a protective, eternal embrace. Here, the darkness is not empty, but velvety and full of ancient patience. This silent abyss reminds us that true peace often lies far beneath the surface, hidden away from the noise of the day. There is a core of stillness that remains calm, untouched, and unbreakable. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. For now, the exploring is done. There is nothing left to learn, nothing left to worry about, and nothing left to do. Just breathe. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, steady as the deep ocean tides. Let your eyes grow heavy, heavier than the water miles below. Let the vast, silent arms of the Mariana Trench cradle your dreams in its eternal calm. Good night.